Hey YouTube, Jeremy right here giving you a tank talk on another 55-gallon community tank. This is tank G, like golf, and I've had it running in its current situation for about 2 years. I actually purchased this tank from another aquarium friend, a local hobbyist in my town here in Little Rock, and I bought it as it was. So gravel substrate, unlike most of my tanks, which are dirt with sand cap. But this tank was running so well, I didn't want to move it. I did, however, largely replant, rescape it, pull a lot of the fish out, and it's now my blue and black guppy colony. I don't have a current count on the fish in here. Usually what I do is take several photographs and then go back through the photos and try to count how many fish I can see and then guess about how many fry are in here. So let's just get a peek at some of the guppies. You can see most of these are half black blues or black guppies or blues. And I have them in here just operating as a free colony, mixing. I generally pull, there's a yellow gup or a blonde guppy kind of in the middle. It's a female, I'll probably let her stay. Anyway, I generally pull out any of the guppies that I see that are not, in unity and harmony with that. Every once in a while one comes through. It used to happen more often than now, but I'll see a small fish that as it's growing up, I'm like, oh, that's more of a leopard guppy, or it's got cobra patterns and some yellow, or a red tail or something. I pull those guys out and just throw them in more appropriate tanks. Just at a guess, that looks like 60 to 100 fish. I don't know. I'm bad at counting guppies, honestly. If they're moving, I can't count them. And they're also Bristlenose and Ancistrus catfish. So let's get a look at this one. This is one of the females, I think. Yeah, that's Big Mama. So she is hanging out on some jungle Vallisneria. I got this from my friend Ella, and that pot didn't come from her. The Vallisneria did, but she gave me the idea for the pot. And I was going, oh wow, that's such a cool idea. Not that I need to necessarily try to keep it separate from anything. I think I'll very easily be able to identify the jungle val by how huge it is. So you can see it totally covers the top of a 55. I've heard that this stuff will get as much as like 13 feet tall. Okay, cool. We've got 4+ feet right there. So that's not even half of how tall some say it will get. But let's talk about this aquarium. I mentioned that it is not a dirted tank, so it's my only true gravel bottom tank. I've got one betta bowl that has gravel for now. Probably won't for long, but I actually just found the bowl with the gravel in it, so whatever. Plants that are in here. We've got some small anubias down here. They've been in the tank since I got this from my buddy. What else was in here when I got it from him? The Java ferns. Yeah, they're not looking excellent right now. The water in here has had. I'll tell you a little bit about the water, and then you'll understand more about why this tank looks as it does, why it's kind of shady, and yeah. So hard water. General hardness is usually over 400 parts per million. That's high, even for guppies. It's probably so high that my Ancistrus catfish aren't breeding right now. So I go through and do, regular water changes. But I think it's about time that this tank is going to have a major trim, possibly a replant, possibly a rebuild, restart. And the reason for that is my ferns have had trouble in here. One from the high GH. GH is usually thought of as general hardness. General hardness is generally going to be +2 ion elements. Elements that can hold a +2 charge can contribute to water hardness. Those are usually going to be calcium and magnesium and things in that row on a periodic table, which is why they have that +2 charge. Chemistry's great. Water chemistry is really what aquatics and freshwater, marine tanks, gardening, that's what it's all about. It's chemistry. So talking back about the chemistry, This tank, you can see it's got lots and lots of plants. So ammonia is usually at next to nothing. I can't ever measure it. So it's not zero, but it's very, very, very close to zero. I can't measure it. I can't pick it up with my tests. Nitrites, always zero. Phosphates are a little bit 3 to 5 ppm. Nitrates are usually in like the 5 to 10 range. So the plants have fuel. They have stuff to go off of. But that high alkalinity, salinity, the total dissolved solids, and the general hardness, which is caused by there being a lot of other stuff in the water, lots of elements, lots of ions floating around. My thought is that the ferns just don't like it too much. Other plants, you can see, they like it just fine. They're very happy in here. Lots of light. This tank has two-phase lighting. I'll show you that stuff. It has an Aquaneat 24/7 aquarium light, which it's had. I bought this lamp probably in 2014. It was a 24/7 dawn to dusk light. It's also got just a cheap Amazon shop light. Both of these are 4 feet long, which is the length left to right of a 55-gallon aquarium. 75-gallon aquariums are also 4 feet long, so the same light will go across a 55 or 75. Shop lights quite commonly come in 4 feet. So it just happens that people with 55-gallon tanks and 75-gallon tanks learned a while back that, hey, shop lights grow the heck out of some plants. And in fact, yes, they do. I'll show you another totally different kind of shop light up here. But yeah, that one I actually just turned off for this video. But the light I just showed you is a 5,000 lumen at 6,500 Kelvin color temp. The one here is probably, I think it's probably closer to 4,000 lumens at 5,500 Kelvin. That's a guess, an educated guess. So let's go back and talk about some of the plants. This big bushy patch, Pogostemon stellatus, octopus variety. Just above that, Anacharis, Elodea densa. It's this plant that's growing up. If we look down in here toward the back, that plant that has a little bit of green dust algae growing on it, there are 2 of those. They're a different type of Anubias, which is a very hard-leafed, slow-growing plant. They generally are thought to come from Africa. Most of them do. Some are found elsewhere in the world, but not many. They're African plants. Gosh, what is that? I'm forgetting the name of that thing down there, so I'll come back to it. Right beside it, Bacopa. This is Bacopa monieri. There's also Bacopa caroliniana in this tank. And actually, that might be caroliniana right above it. That's this plant right here. This stuff over here, Rotala rotundifolia, that's a very common aquarium plant. And the stuff over here is the Anacharis. That's not what I should call it. That's what we call it in the aquarium hobby. It's really Elodea densa. There are many plants that go by the Anacharis name. You may have seen that if you've watched some of my other videos, but blah, that's what's up. I'm noticing down in here this other Anubias definitely has quite a bit of dust algae growing on it. I may trim some of those leaves, encourage it to grow a bit in the future. Down in here, I can't at all remember the name of this. My buddy Jack gave me that plant like 2 weeks ago, and it's just amazing. It's like a Dr. Seuss grass ball. I'm just going to call it a Dr. Seuss grass ball until I say, hey Jack, what is this stuff really? I can't remember. That is a native plant from my area, this part of the world, Arkansas. Down here a bit, dwarf Sagittaria. Here's something I skipped that's pretty cool. Gratiola, I believe that's what that is. Also in here we may find some Deoda, which is another Arkansas plant like that. There still are a number of small ferns, like that guy, center screen. That's an El Nino fern. Very small, very slow growing, in my tanks anyway. I mentioned that this tank specifically has trouble with ferns. Java fern, they're usually banging. Over here it's like, I'm growing, I'm staying alive, but it's just not like thriving. Down in here, so Wendolib Java fern, I believe. Oh, it looks terrible, in fact. It's really, I think I know what's going on. I think there's a virus on these ferns, or infecting these ferns. Just the Java ferns, I believe. So that is what it is. Over here we can see one that looks significantly better. It's in more shade. That's part of why it looks better. But yeah, same species, same genetics. They were even the same plant at one time. And there are some other things down in here. Little Bucephalandra. I'm not sure what type that is. Something probably a baby Java fern tied to a couple of bits of, actually several baby Java ferns tied to bits of lava rock that I forgot about. So let's talk about now how water moves around this tank. This is just a little sun jet head. I took a large pre-filter sponge, cut it in half, and slipped it around that so it doesn't pull my baby guppy fry through. Like those little fish, yeah. That thing would be sucked up and spit out by that if it were doing all of its thing. In addition to that, just moving water, what that is, there is an Aquarium Masters brand hang-on back filter. And I really like this brand. They are very inexpensive, very quiet, and reliable. I buy these off of Amazon. They're a great deal. Again, that's Aquarium Masters brand. It's got the lid off of this. I do not have normal filter media in here. Let's see if I can give you a better view. Maybe too much light. But down in there, what you're seeing is lava rock. I use lava rock as a grow medium, so my plants can take root. And yeah, it's a great little spot where I scratched the paint off the wall, isn't it? But yeah, this is probably my least successful aquaponic venture ever. This particular tank. Let me show you what it looks like when I do this with other tanks. Bing, bing, huge growth. Now the reason this one has a lot of growth is super simple. It's not that it has a big filter. It's got a light right above it. Oh, gee. That makes a huge difference, huh? Yeah. These don't have a light right above them. They have a light beside them. Now that's enough for some plants, like pothos. This is a Mexican petunia here. It's not really enough for that guy. There was a tomato down here, Deoda, still is actually. But they're just barely clinging onto life because they don't have a light above them. That's a very unnatural experience for them. If I were to place a light above that, I could put lots and lots and lots of plants, as demonstrated by only one of the other tanks that I'm growing things aquaponically from the top of the hang-on back filter. I would entirely recommend that if you have a hang-on back filter and it's for a freshwater planted aquarium, take all the guts out of it except for the impeller. Take the cartridge out. Don't run any carbon in your filter. It doesn't need to be there. You need to allow those things. Those are building blocks for your plants and fish. And if those building blocks are being removed in a carbon filter, you'll never have a balanced system. It's just doing lots of bad stuff. So what you can do, take out the carbon filter, place a pre-filter sponge over the intake, and it's like one of those. Actually, it's exactly the same thing, but I don't know if I can give you a good view. Large pre-filter sponge back there. That's over the intake for the filter, the hang-on back. You can do this for all sorts of water intakes, as demonstrated by this. Then the water that's going up into the filter has already been filtered. So what is this doing? It's just circulating water now. It's bringing water up to the roots of these plants. It's allowing the plants to do some biofiltration. And it's creating circulation. So if you enjoy this sort of thing, I will do quite a few tank talks. Give me a like or subscribe, share if you wish. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll go back to washing some water. Catch you later.